Hello, Dental A Team listeners. This is Kiera Dent, and I just wanted to say thank you so much for being part of my Dental A Team family. I seriously love doing this podcast. I thought I was going to hate it, and I love it. I love it so much because I get to connect with you. I get to hear how this podcast is helping you and your practice be better. So if you have loved this podcast and you are willing to share, I would greatly appreciate if you'll share with your friends, if you'll leave us a review, if you'll give us 5 stars, anything you can do. Just like you guys grow your practices, we're trying to grow this podcast to positively impact the world of dental. This is how we get to grow our Dental A Team family. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoy the show. Hey everyone, welcome to the Dental A Team podcast. We're your hosts, Kiera Dent
and Dr. Mark Costas.
Mark and I had this crazy idea that maybe we could combine a dentist and a team member's perspective because let's face it, dentistry can be a challenging profession with those two perspectives. And Dental A Team podcast was created.
I'm a practicing dentist, a multiple practice owner, a dental performance coach, and the founder of the Dental Success Institute.
I've been a dental assistant, treatment coordinator, scheduler, biller, office manager, current practice owner, and international dental consultant. Mark and I don't just understand you, we are you.
Our goal is to positively impact the world of dentistry by sharing our lessons learned from the road in hundreds of dental offices.
2 perspectives, 1 mission, to help dental professionals reach their full potential. Welcome to the Dental A Team podcast. Hello, Dental A Team listeners. This is Kiera, and you guys, I am so lucky. I don't know how I've convinced Debbie, Kassmel's awesome, incredible regional manager, to pop on the podcast with me again so soon. But Debbie, welcome back. How are you today?
I'm great, Kiera. How are you?
Oh, man, so good. I'm so good. And I'm super excited because we left off on some really fun topics, and I just love to chat with you and pick your brain and hear how you do things. So I am jazzed for our podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again.
Of course. Okay, guys. So if you haven't heard, Dr. Kassmel has an incredible practice, and she is not even practicing dentistry most of the time. And she has her incredible right hand, Debbie. We had a podcast last time, so if you haven't listened to it, Debbie is a wizard at holding people accountable. So Debbie, let's just dive back into that accountability, because you and I were chatting about how you guys have worked really, really hard, especially since you brought on other practices and mergers. You had to really get an accountable department heads or your executive team or your leadership team. You had to morph them and really rely on them to help hold people accountable. So let's talk about how you hold those people accountable as the office manager or the regional manager, because I think that that's an area of gray that you've really had to dive into and you've done an exceptional job at.
That's something that we've kind of been working on. We kind of saw these individuals that expressed an interest in being a department head, or we saw the potential that they could lead a department and lead their team members. And it's something that, myself included, that you continually, I think, have to work on your leadership skills. And I guess we've had our department heads for about, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years. And so we just invest, I think, time with that individual and have really open feedback both ways, and give little challenges along the way to kind of help them grow in that leadership position. And I feel like we've done a pretty good job of that along the way. We definitely challenge each other to be engaged in the team meetings, because if you're a leader, your team is going to be looking to you to see how you respond and how engaged you are or how enthusiastic you are. So that's definitely something that we've had to really work on. I'm not really a naturally enthusiastic person.
Unless there's music. Debbie will do a dance party, right. No doubt.
Right. But it just doesn't come natural to me. But I know that that's something that I need to work on to be an example for my team members. They're going to kind of shadow what I do, I think. So, we've worked along the way, doing little things like that. But at the last mastermind in Indianapolis, Jake did a talk, and he did this engagement survey for the mastermind members. How engaged are they? Are they using all the resources that are available to them? And I don't know. I just thought that was great. So I thought that I would implement that for the department heads. And it does have things on there like how engaged are you in the team meetings, whether it be morning huddle or accountability meetings or team meetings, things like that the leaders need to show the rest of the team. So we implemented that, and we got that finalized at a couple department head meetings ago, and we'll start to incorporate that with our PDP meetings, our performance development program meetings, and we do those every other month. So we're due to do those in November, and so we'll try it out. We'll see how it works. I'm excited about it, and the department heads are too.
I love this. So, Debbie, you guys do such a good job in so many areas. And I love, for those of you who are new, Debbie was talking about the Mark Costas Dental Success Institute masterminds. We go there, and Jake is the numbers guru. And I love the engagement survey. So I want to dive into that more. But I want to step back to when you very first started speaking, because I know you guys have grown. You've exponentially grown to multiple practices. So you mentioned that the way you guys chose these team leads, because I think a lot of offices try to figure out how do we select team leads. And you said they either express interest or you saw it in them as well. So what types of things were you looking for in your department heads to have them as the person for the job? Like, what did you guys look for? How did you select people to fulfill this role?
Well, we definitely wanted them to be great at what they did. So that's one thing, of course, but I think more than that, could those individuals see problems that needed to be solved? Were they motivated to solve a problem or implement something or research something that could improve the practice or could improve the department? Those are things that we look for. Do they have good work ethic? I mean, do they, they're there. You just know that you can depend on them. You don't have to worry when you get there, is so-and-so going to show up or are they going to be late? They're just there. They're steady and they're committed.
I love that, because you just listed off a ton of things, and it sounds like the bulk of it is they really make your life easier, so you're not having to manage your department leads that should be managing their departments.
Yes.
Okay, so how was it in taking these people who had been team members and promoting them or changing them? Like, how did you guys go through that promotional period where they went from, co-team member to now being the lead of that department? How did you guys transition that? What was kind of that process? Because I know so many offices struggle with this. And then that team lead is just kind of like bullied by the other team members. The other team members don't want to work with that team lead because why did they get chosen and I didn't? So how did you manage that? What was your guys' process on that?
You ever any issues about resentment or getting that position? I don't think I'm aware of any, but the example I'm going to give you is Brittany. She's our assistant team lead, and she wanted it. And from when we first started to now, I could honestly weep when I think about her transition and how she's grown. Dr. Kassmel and I gave her some really very honest feedback, and she was very receptive. I'm sure at times, it was hard to hear that, but I tell you what, she would leave that office and you could see definite improvement that girl, she wanted it. So I don't know. She was probably, it's been probably a year going through that process, but just to see her want to and her desire, there are times that she knew she was struggling and she knew she needed to do something differently or, say something in a different way. And she just did it. So, I think probably one of the most important things, to gather from them is, do you want this? And if they truly want it, then they're going to take the steps.
Totally agree.
To step into that role.
Right, because they want it. It's not you putting something upon them because they're your rock star. So I've had some hygienists and I've had some treatment coordinators like, you know what? I've been that role before and I don't want it. And then there's other people who are just desperate to have it. So I love that point of making sure people want it, because then you don't have to motivate them to want it. They already want it. Your life's easier. So when you guys roll this out, Debbie, did you guys have an announcement to the team of like, hey guys, we're going to do these department leads. Here are the department leads. Or like how did you roll it out to the rest of the team?
As we grew, we knew that we wanted to make changes and become bigger and better. And so we definitely did have to kind of roll that out to the team members in a way that, we told them in order to scale and become better or grow, it's not going to be possible for me, Dr. Kassmel, to lead all of these team members or Debbie to lead all of these team members. What we're going to do is kind of break it apart, hygiene department, front office department, assistant, and put a certain person to, I guess, lead the rest of the team. I'll hold those team members accountable. They'll hold you accountable because just logistically, it's too many people for one person to handle. For sure. I guess, did that answer your question?
It totally did. So it sounds like you guys, approached the team and said, look, let's be real. There's no way Debbie and Dr. Kassmel can hold everybody accountable, which I think you also were very vocal with your team and you told them so they knew what was going on. It wasn't a surprise for them. I think that's a huge piece. And then it sounds like, okay, we're going to have these department people, and then you rolled it out to the department. Okay, Brittany's now the department head. This is what she'll be responsible for. And you guys already had a fantastic culture, because I know sometimes it doesn't roll that smoothly. And I have told people in other offices, it was people could apply for the position. Other offices have done where they did the surprise attack. I would not recommend that one. That doesn't usually go over super well. But when it comes from the office manager and the doctor of, hey, let's help you guys understand that we really can't help keep you all accountable. And honestly, we can't be a resource for all of you. Let's find someone in your department. And I've also had others where they rolled it out of like, let's try this for 3 months. Let's help them. Let's support them. And usually that molds sometimes better if your office is resistant to this. I think, Debbie, your office is so open to it because you guys are so pro change and growth and innovation. And that's your culture.
Right.
Where some other offices maybe aren't quite like you guys.
It truly is. I mean, you can expect for things to change and grow,
which is amazing.
It's just the way it is.
And I think all of you should take a note out of Debbie's book. If your team's already accustomed to that, I mean, Debbie, you talk about a lot of the changes you make. I mean, you guys are merging and you're holding these people accountable. You just said you're going to implement this engagement score. Your team doesn't give pushback. They're not like, oh, more work. They're like, yeah, bring it on. And honestly, I feel if anyone can learn anything from you, I would say create a culture of that, because your life is easier, I would imagine, because you have a team that you can change and you can pivot and you can grow, and they're going to follow you without as much resistance as, say, some of the other offices I've been in.
It's true. We have just a fantastic team, and we have kind of created that culture where we are growth oriented, and we know that we have to be change ready in order to grow. But that doesn't mean we don't have struggles of our own. I mean,
Sure.
we definitely do, and continue to work through those daily. And so we're not perfect, but
I do. You guys have grown a lot, and I love that that's become the culture. Okay, so we've got this dialed in. You figured out how you hired these department heads, and then you rolled it out to the team. I'm sure you gave clear expectations to the department heads of what they would do, so
Yes.
they knew exactly what they would be held accountable for, which
Yes.
I think practices when you want to roll this out. We get super excited. We hear it on a podcast, and if you're like me, you just want to roll it out. This is one of those things you should map out expectations very clearly so you set this team lead up for success as opposed to letting them fail at the very beginning.
Correct. And we revisit those expectations pretty often, just to make sure we're on the same page and we're upholding our end of the bargain.
I like that. Okay, so you guys have all these pieces in place. You're making sure those expectations are accurate now. You're reviewing them. So now how do you hold those department heads accountable? Do they report to you weekly, or do you check in with them monthly, or do they send their KPIs in so you guys don't even check in? Like, how do you hold all of them accountable and not make yourself constantly running around from person to person to person to get the information?
Well, as far as KPI accountabilities, we track those daily, and I see those numbers daily, and they put their numbers into a spreadsheet, and I look at those weekly. And at the beginning of every week, I'll look at the previous week and look at those numbers. I'll usually do a quick check-in with the department head because we all have meetings with Dr. Kassmel at the first part of the week. And, I'll say, Brittany, here's what I see, what's happening here. And we'll just do a quick check-in and see where we need to pivot and make adjustments.
I like this word, pivot. Feels better than change.
Yeah, I'll do a quick check-in. So end of day sheets give me a lot of information. And yeah, I mean, we do a lot of quick check-ins. Amy's our hygiene department head, and she is extremely busy. So it's a little bit more difficult to check in with her just because of her schedule and her busyness. But we do try to do quick check-ins. It's easier for me with Brittany and with Julie.
Sure.
But yeah.
Okay. So then they're checking with you. I also think it's important to note that you said they put it in a spreadsheet, and the numbers they report on their end of day are the numbers you're looking for. And I think that that's really smart. You're not creating busy work. They're literally telling you what you need to know for their for the information you're looking for. So that's super smart. If you're not doing that, just make sure those end of days are not busy work. I think that's brilliant. But then how do your department heads, how often are they meeting with their departments and holding their departments accountable? How does that work within the departments?
Repeat that again for me, Kiera. I just want to make sure I understand it correctly.
Sure. So I'm curious of how your department heads hold their departments accountable. Do they have weekly check-ins with their departments? So like Brittany with her assistants, does she meet with them weekly? Do they turn in reports to her that she then reports to you? Like how does the departmental level stay accountable to the department head?
Yes. Each team member will turn in their end of day sheet. It will go to the department head. They will then look at that, and then it will come to me, and then eventually to Dr. Kassmel. Hygienists, I think they communicate a lot via text or WhatsApp, just because of their schedules. And we do monthly department meetings.
I see. Okay.
So hygienists will have a meeting, assistants will have a meeting, front office will have a meeting. We just had one last night for front office. So we do that. One thing that we need to work on, I think, as an office is like getting the information out office wide. Yes.
So many offices are in your boat, Debbie.
Yes.
Because we forget as departments that we impact all the other departments. So we make up a game plan that impacts everybody else, and we forget to tell everybody else of this new cool plan we came up with.
It's so true. Yes.
And I think that that's a struggle I've seen with a lot of offices, but I have heard of some where they'll have, they've got Slack or they've got WhatsApp, but I think it's more of having it posted or discussed in like your weekly accountabilities. You have every department write on a Google Doc. Here are updates from our meeting. And then that Google Doc is printed at the weekly check-ins where the whole team's there. So maybe it's every Wednesday, all the department changes are listed. So that way there's a communication. Because when it's electronic, it's super convenient. But when it's posted and printed, people are much more likely to see it. I'd recommend emailing it, but also posting it. And those have kind of been the best ways I've seen in other offices that they've been able to do that. Because you're right, that is that struggle. We've got, or other offices will have where the department heads will email their meeting notes to all the department heads post meeting, so that way the department heads will know. And then they also print out anything that's pertinent for the entire team, and they post that the day after their meeting. So if you guys had a meeting last night, somebody would be accountable for typing up all the notes that happened in that meeting and then posting it the next day in like the break room or something, saying, hey guys, here's the front office meeting notes from last night that impact all of you. Here are the updates and changes. So those have been kind of some of the things I've seen work in other offices, because you're right, that communication piece, it's like, great, we had these awesome meetings, we're holding everybody accountable, and we forget we're in a team.
Exactly. Yeah, that is one piece that we really need work on. Thank you for those suggestions.
Totally. You guys, this is a live podcast, so I'm glad I'm asking Debbie. I want to know all these questions. Ask me too. It's a dual conversation here. So, but Debbie, I love your accountability. I love that you guys have it structured, because as you say it, it's super crystal clear to me. One, choose your department heads and pick people that actually want it. Number 2, make sure you've got clear expectations of what their job entails. 3, make sure they report to you nightly and weekly, where you check in with these department heads, and they do the same thing with their teams. So the team's mimicking and mirroring how you're having them interact with you. Then monthly, you have a team meeting with each department, to where they work within their own departments every single month. And honestly, I hear so many offices that kind of gloss over that department meeting every month. They don't think it's as necessary. Those are the offices that struggle with that accountability and staying connected and really diving into the issues per department. So, then do you guys have like how often do you have a whole team or company meeting? How often do those occur?
Well, we have our weekly accountability meetings, and then monthly we have a longer team meeting.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So I love the weekly accountabilities. And honestly, you guys, if you have not seen Debbie's accountability check-ins, I think they're brilliant. I've started using them in offices. I think they're quick, especially for big practices, just keeping everybody accountable. You can use it in your departments. But I love that you guys do that. And then once a month, you're having that. So Debbie, I know our podcast wasn't half of what we talked about before we started, but I love that you just broke down how you hold every person accountable and you actually utilize team leads, because I think so many people hear about team leads, but I've never done a podcast where I've actually dove down deep in how you hold all these different departments accountable and making sure that they're really connected with you. So my last question of the podcast is, how often do your team leads or heads get together to kind of do like a quarterly mapping or a yearly mapping? How often does that meeting occur, and how do you guys do that meeting?
Our department meetings.
Like with the department heads.
Yeah, we do those monthly.
Monthly. And how long do you run those meetings for?
They're 2 hours.
Okay.
They're 2 hours long. We've had a hard time this year to do a longer quarterly meeting, just getting everybody together. Our goal is to do the quarterly meeting and do it somewhere and maybe do it for 4 or 5 hours.
I see. Okay. And that's honestly, I'm going to just call myself out on it. You guys are really waiting on me to come help you with quarterlies. So 100% my fault. We'll call myself out on that. But we should just get it scheduled for 2020 so I can help you guys with that. But I love that you guys have built this structure. And I love that you started even when you didn't necessarily know how. You didn't have a roadmap or a guide. It's like, okay, this is what we need to do. And then you're constantly growing, morphing, and evolving as you see things are needing to change. So Debbie, Man, once again, you just dazzle. You do it so well over there. So do you have any final closing thoughts for anybody wanting to roll out department heads that you would say, hey, this is something that helped me, or any final pieces that you want to tie in to our podcast today?
I think choose your people wisely that want it, truly want it, and are willing to invest the time and energy, because it does take a lot of extra time, and as far as meetings, I guess, and make sure they're committed. I really don't think that there's anybody on our team that comes to those meetings with a sense of drudgery, oh, there's another meeting. We really enjoy each other's company. We enjoy challenging each other. Sometimes we hear tough things. We hear tough feedback, but we really work hard at trying to keep the emotion out of it and just do what's best for the practice. But we love our meetings. We enjoy getting together. We laugh, we work hard, and come up with solutions. So I think make sure you've got that culture to foster that growth and challenge and choose the leads wisely that want it.
Oh, I love that. And I love that that's how you ended, because you're right. That will save you so much time, effort, and energy long term. And I would say, Debbie, something else I really admire in you is that you recognize that you need to do some planning and some forethought, and that pays undue dividends long term. And I really admire that in you. And I try to think of, well, what would Debbie do? She would map this out. She'd have a good plan before rolling it out, because you're right. Choosing those people that want it make your life so much easier, that are committed. You're not worried about them showing up. Half of that stress of leadership is already gone, and you can then just move forward with it.
Right. Yeah.
I love it. Well, Debbie, as always, you dazzled. You inspire me every single time. And I just appreciate you so much for being on the podcast with me today.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much.
You are so welcome. We're going to get Debbie back on, because we want to talk about mergers and how she merges practices and what you do with associates and all that jazz, because Debbie's had to learn that. So guys, we're going to get Debbie back on for the next one. Debbie, I said it in this podcast, so we don't forget next time we get on the mics what we're going to do. We'll remember, because it's recorded for us. But anyway, mergers and associates and what to do there. So we'll call it Mergers, Associates, Oh My, I think will be the topic of our next podcast, because it just feels right. All right, Miss Debbie, thank you again. And Dental 18 listeners, thank you. And I'll catch you all next time on the Dental 18 podcast. And that wraps it up for another episode of the Dental 18 podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.